All right, today we're going to see if low and no alc wines are any good. I'm Trent.
And I'm Jason, and we're the Wind Up Podcast. We're two guys on an unfiltered and unapologetically unprofessional wine journey. And our slogan here is drink more, try more, learn more. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. So before we jump into the wines, Trent, what have you been thinking about for the week?
So it kind of ties in with today's topic of low and no alcohol wines and talk about, why do people get headaches from wines? Okay, so actually there's two parts to it. One is, why do Asians go red and why do people get headaches from wines?
Both very important topics,
and
yes.
Funny enough, they're both linked. As a red wine, I kind of start getting to the others.
Yeah.
So it's a very complicated matter, but I try and simplify it. So in terms of how we process wine in our bodies, it's a two-phase process, right?
Yeah.
We take in alcohol, we have an enzyme, then we produce this thing called acetaldehyde. And then from the acetaldehyde, we add another enzyme to it, then we get something called acetic acid, which is harmless. So a two-phase process, right? Okay, so scientists have been looking at, so why do people get headaches? In red wines, there's a natural antioxidant called quercetin.
Okay.
Okay, that actually starts to block the metabolism of red wines, which means that it creates an increase of acetaldehyde, which is a bad thing that creates the headaches and the hangovers that we're kind of used to. And then, similarly enough, in Asians, why they go red, they have a deficiency in one of those enzymes that create the metabolism of the wines. So you can't process it from acetaldehyde into acetic acid, which is the harmless portion of it. So that is why we go red and have hangovers and headaches. So they try and look into it.
You're saying Asians are then more susceptible to having a headache?
Correct. And also going red. We are deficient in that enzyme called aldehyde dehydrogenase. So that actually then creates less metabolism around processing the alcohol, which means that for certain people, Korean,
Yes.
Chinese, Japanese, they tend to go red quite easier and also maybe more susceptible towards headaches as well in terms of having alcohol.
You don't go very red, but which means...
I'm not Asian.
Oh, yeah. Is there anything else that it could mean? Because I'm pretty sure you're Asian.
Oh, I don't know. It could be just a mix of genes,
Yeah, because there's certain people that will go red. It's not every single Asian.
Yeah, is it a deficiency? So, certain people do, certain people don't, but for me, I'm lucky enough that I can still go for drinks at lunchtime and no one knows that I had alcohol.
So the telltale signs of drinking, besides the smell, disappear. That's fantastic.
The flush, the Asian flush, they call it.
I'm curious if it's also linked to genetics, because my father used to tell me he'd drink a case of beer quite often.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why I don't get it, which is interesting.
Or maybe. Conditioning, right?
Yeah.
There you go. That's my thought of the week.
Which does link very nicely into this topic about low alcohol and no alcohol wine, because headaches is part of it. The redness maybe a bit, but there's certainly this trend, and even I'm feeling it, about drinking less alcohol.
Yeah.
Do you feel that? Is it age? Is there a movement? What's going on?
Do you remember when you were younger?
Yes.
You remember that?
It was a while ago, but yeah, I do.
Yeah. And then suddenly went through this phase of pure blondes.
Yes.
For beers.
Low carb.
Low carb.
Because we got to stay trim and fit. Yeah.
Less alc. That trend kind of came through, a bit more health conscious, right?
Yes.
Maybe more so around Sydney, that people started to look at their bodies a lot more, kind of drinking a bit more responsibly, having your poke bowls, protein shakes, and all kind of came with that kind of persona, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's been coming through probably about 5 or 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But now we're starting to see that in wines as well. So people still want to have that enjoyment around having wines, having the food and wine pairings as well, but not giving it away completely.
Do you feel it at your age that, even though you're still quite young, at your age, do you feel like you need to be consuming less alcohol overall?
Well, at the age of 25...
And you need to laugh at that because that's not true. But yeah, at the age of 25,
at the age of 25 I think I'm quite responsible already. I think it's about, I think people have been saying it's like kind of drink less, but drink better. And that's the kind of motto that I'm trying to drink with. And then also Mary Quat said, kind of like, it's not drunk in moderation, drink it with consideration as well.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I kind of aspire or kind of follow.
For me, I feel like there is a movement. There's a trend that's going on, but it's also got to do with age. Yeah. I can't have the headaches going on while I've got to drive the kids to dancing school the next day, etc., like that. So I think there's a combination of factors that are coming through, but this trend towards low alcohol and no alcohol wine is absolutely growing.
Yes.
And I was looking into some of the statistics to indicate and show that growth. So Nelson IQ is saying 315% increase in non-alcoholic drinks in the last 12 months. IWSR is saying that by 2026, there's going to be an increased growth in that market by 33%.
Yeah.
So we know that's growing. The New South Wales government, they've offered a grant worth $3 million to Australian Vintage, who own McGuigan and Tempus Two, as well as Treasury Wine Estates, who own Penfolds, and a bunch of other companies and universities, to improve the innovation and quality of low alcohol, no alcohol wine. So there is absolutely something there. And it's international. Like you mentioned Sydney, apparently across the world, there's a thing. There's a movement known as the sober curious movement.
But the question that I have is like, why do you have to try so hard to create no alcohol wines? Why don't you just drink something else like cordial or water?
I have a similar question, but I've got a feeling it's kind of like those that enjoyed cigarettes, you know, they try to have the version which doesn't have the nicotine, right? Just something to hold.
You mean
something
vaping, which is also even worse?
Not vaping, but there was people that would walk around with just the stick because it's the pattern of behavior as a form of weaning off. I don't know, but I agree. There is an option there. Maybe they're trying to make it an easier transition. And there's a difference between low and no alcohol wine as well. So maybe it's just a reduction. There's actually quite a few definitions out there. And there's a food standard which defines what it is. So if you're going to claim that your wine is no alcohol, zero alcohol, then it needs to be less than 0.5% alcohol. Kombucha has alcohol, 0.5%, acceptable. If it's low alcohol, and this was interesting, it has to be less than 1.5%. Yeah. So there's still an element in there, but not so much. But there's a lot of wines out there that claim low alcohol, and they're like 9%, 8%. So
I thought the rules around 7% or something like that.
No, food standard guides actually state it, right?
Okay.
So it's quite clear. I think the other thing to be conscious of is there's products out there which claim to be no alcohol wine, but they're not actually wine. In order to be claimed as wine, you need to have fermented the grapes and have alcohol in there and then take away the alcohol. But there's actually quite a few products out there in the market where it's just unfermented grapes with other ingredients.
Is that called nudie juice?
It's called nudie juice. There's brands out there called Non, for example, which they kind of, the way they describe it is they're trying to reimagine the wine drinking experience. Right? So it's completely different. But the reality is there was no alcohol in there in the first place. So that's absolutely different.
Yeah. Okay.
So I did want to talk about pros and cons. Why should you consider it? And we've talked about, I think alcohol, particularly when there's a high level of consumption, it's not done in moderation. You know, there's health and mental health issues that come out of it. You know, there's liver health, there's your heart health, there's the risk of cancer increases, you get better sleep, your productivity in the bed when you're having action is also improved.
Are you working in bed? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah. I always try to work in bed, but my wife doesn't want to work at the same time. So that's a challenge. But it improves your sex life. That's the reality of it. Weight loss, and then the antisocial behavior is also a consideration. You know, there's a lot of people that consume so much that they, in a social event, maybe they become aggressive or they pair away from people. You could say something wrong. It's a consideration. So that's, if you're drinking low or no alcohol wine, then you get away from that. But there are some cons. And I think it primarily comes down to quality. But also it comes down to the process of extracting that wine. which is the challenge.
Extracting the alcohol from the wine.
Extracting the alcohol. Thanks for correcting. That's right. There's two ways of doing it. So one way is called vacuum distillation. Yeah. And vacuum distillation is kind of like when you put wine into a frying pan, the alcohol evaporates, right?
Yeah.
In this case, you put wine into a vacuum, heat it up to a certain level, the alcohol will disappear. You need to heat it up to be not greater than 35 degrees, because if you do that, then the flavor gets lost. So that's one method. The other method is known as reverse osmosis.
Yeah.
And that method is you use a thin membrane on the liquid, and then you apply high pressure to kind of separate the two liquids. So you get water and alcohol at the bottom, and then kind of condensed wine juice at the top.
Okay, cool.
And then you kind of evaporate that alcohol and wine and put it back in and get rid of the alcohol. Quite expensive. But by doing that, this is where the cons come in, because the quality of the wine goes away. If you think about alcohol as it evaporates is that channel to transfer the aroma.
Yep.
So if you're evaporating the alcohol, it has no medium for the aroma come through. So you might get less of a scent.
Yeah. So I was doing some bit of research as well, and I think there's also a third process called spinning cone.
Yep.
It talks about like repeated evaporation, condensation cycles at low temperatures to kind of then get rid of the alcohol within the wines. But to your point, it's around alcohol carries aromas, provides the structure, the texture towards wine. It's not purely there just to get you drunk. It actually has a purpose there in terms of how it creates the wine as well. So it'll be interesting today in terms of see how these goes, and in terms of also how innovation has come from what it was before to what it is now, and see whether we can still enjoy some low or no alc.
Particularly with the investment in there. So what we have today, I've brought a non-alcoholic version of a red and a white, and I've also bought the alcoholic version, so we can compare the two and really see what the difference is. So we might jump into it and start with the whites. And I used Wine Pilot as a reference. I don't know if you've seen Wine Pilot.
No, I haven't.
Wine Pilot did a 2023 competition as to what's the best low alc and no alc wine, and the winner of it was this Tempus 2 Zero Alcohol Prosecco.
Okay.
And to compare that, I've also brought a King Valley Pizzini Prosecco as well. And so we can give that a try. And I guess starting off with the color
Of the no alc?
Of the no alc compared to the alc, holding them up together,
They look fairly similar, actually.
fairly similar. One's a bit lighter,
Yeah. The no alc actually seems a bit slightly darker than the...
which isn't what I expected.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the bubbles in the no alc, I don't know if yours is more foamy in the no alc.
Yeah.
For some reason,
Soda stream, you think?
it could be. But the color is the typical yellow straw, opaque color, a bit more foamy. And on the nose, can you smell the difference? Yeah. I remember opening this up, and it smelled a bit. It smelled a bit like dishwashing detergent with water. That's the
Like
zero
the lemon,
alcohol
like
one.
the finish, is it?
Yeah.
Or palm olive.
But
Has kind of light lemon flavour to it. But no, I wouldn't say morning fresh or something like that.
no,
It has a kind of
there's a bit of
brightness
citrus
to it.
coming through. And then in comparison to the alcohol version,
It just feels a bit, I don't know, dull.
yes, yeah, that's absolutely the difference between the two.
I'm trying the Pizzini.
And you've had a taste of the Tempus 2.
Oh,
I'm going to have a taste of the Tempus 2. What are you tasting with the Pizzini?
actually, I don't know. I get the kind of hit of bitterness straight away with the Pizzini after having the no. I don't know whether I'm going from like sweet to the kind of not so sweet and drier Prosecco, but it made my face kind of like cringe a bit when I actually had it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's pleasant. I don't know. Let me try it again.
Yeah, I agree. I just had... So the alcoholic version, the Pizzini, has this bitterness that's coming through in the flavor. It's got a bit more body to it. And yeah, you can feel a bit of the alcohol. But compared to the Tempus Two Prosecco, the printed Tempus Two non-alcoholic version, it's got a bit of that fruit in there. It doesn't have the same body, but it's actually not that bad on the palate.
Yeah, I actually prefer the Tempus 2 than the Pizzini. Feels more easy to drink, whereas I'm kind of forcing myself to drink the Pizzini.
Yeah, that wasn't what I was expecting at all. I actually prefer the flavor of the non-alcoholic version of
same.
it.
Has a bit more kind of fruitiness to it, where the Pizzini kind of, for me, kind of tastes a bit more alcoholic.
There's some bitterness that's coming through it as well. Yeah. Okay, so that's the whites, and they do say that the sparkling whites in particular of the non-alcoholic versions
Works
are quite
better,
good.
the white wines, not so much the reds. So let's try this. So what'd you bring for reds?
So for the reds, I bought a Tread Softly, everything except Pinot Noir. And the Pinot Noir on the wine pilot competition wasn't listed, but this Sangiovese was. And I'd also had a Tread Softly Grenache in our recent trip to South Australia, and it was quite nice. So that's the non-alcoholic version. And then the alcoholic version is an Artemis wine Pinot Noir from the New South Wales Southern Highlands. And if I just show the two on camera, which I'm just looking at it from this angle, they actually look quite similar, which is interesting. Maybe the non-alc is a bit more translucent than the other, but other than that, the cherry red brownish tinge is definitely there. On the nose, were you smelling any differences between the two?
It's it feels like it's trying to get that more kind of whole bunch type of Pinot with the no alc, and there's more like a savoury flavour to it, but it doesn't have that kind of brightness and lift to it. So it kind of felt flat for me.
Yeah. On the key distinction between the two on the nose, they're trying to bring in that whole bunch twiggy kind of smell on the Pinot, but there's no element of fruit that I'm picking up. Whereas on the Artemis wines, the fruit stands out a bit more.
It's interesting though, like I don't know why, because we're having them side by side. Always feels like going from the no alc to the alc, it really brings out the alcohol in the alcoholic wine. It's actually a bit kind of like a whack in the face.
Maybe that's what it is. You're right. I get that. There's a clear difference between that, and the whack in the face isn't a pleasant thing.
It's not pleasant. But I don't know. I just don't feel like I like any of them.
And if you were to choose, like I'm thinking about the flavor of this no alcohol Pinot Noir. It's actually like a diluted mix of strawberries and water. It's a very diluted flavor.
That's what I got as well.
And cardboard, which is
that kind of earthiness, right?
But I'm not enjoying that Pinot Noir at all.
The Artemis or the?
Sorry, the non-alcoholic. If we have the Artemis,
I'm still not liking the Artemis. It's very astringent, tight, bitter.
Yeah, it's quite bitter.
I don't know. It's not liking it. If I had to pick, I'd probably say the no alc again. The kind of edges are like
which is interesting. I'm curious if we didn't have the no alc and just had the alc on its own, would it be different? But comparing the two, it's not pleasant. So if we were to give a Corkscrew rating purely on the no alc version, if I was to have a no alc Tempus Two Prosecco, I think it's all right. I'd give it a 7 if that's exactly what I was going for. Whether or not I'm going to go for a no alc is a different question.
Yeah.
But I do like the flavor of that. I don't like the flavor of the Tread Softly Pinot. I think it's just diluted strawberry juice, and you're saying it adds cardboard. I'd probably give that a 5. But in contrast to the alcohols, they actually taste
Yeah.
better, and maybe it's that alcohol.
It's almost like
bitterness.
this kind of like for me, the no alc prosecco is like a bit like a spritzer type of thing. It's kind of fresh. It's there. Like if you're not expecting the alcohol, not wanting the alcohol, it's actually quite nice.
Yeah,
It's quite refreshing. It's quite fruity.
you're still having the experience of having it in a wine glass, smelling it, tasting it,
Yeah.
all of that.
Yeah. So 7 out of 10, and then the other one, it's like 4 out of 10. And then the no alc Pinot, 5, and then the
The
Artemis is 4 out of 10, I think.
5 for the Prosecco, the Pizzini Prosecco.
Yeah.
Yeah.
5, 7, 5, 4.
5754. Yeah. No, it sounds like no alcohol is a winner for both of us.
Yeah, it is.
In comparison, which wasn't what I was expecting.
Wow. Mind
Right?
blown.
Think about the price as well.
Yeah.
The no alcohol ones, this is another benefit of it. They're
Actually-
around the $15 to $16 mark.
I actually got a bonus round as well.
You got another bonus round?
This one's called H2O.
What does that taste? How many corkscrews do you give that?
10 out of 10. So, much for that. It's good for you. It doesn't
Doesn't dehydrate you. it
dehydrate
hydrates.
you. Exactly. So that's my winner.
So I guess takeaways. This is the first time I've had no alcohol and low alcohol wine. What's your takeaways from this?
Surprised in the sense that, especially with the no alc prosecco, that's something that I would probably go for. Like I know now, like even when you go out with mates and you feel like there's that kind of peer pressure, let's go for a drink, but then now you can go for a no alc alternative and still look like you're drinking, but you're drinking something that's you still enjoy.
Yeah.
So I think it's a really good option, and it's surprised me definitely in terms of both the Pinot and the Prosecco that the no alc for me has won.
Yeah, absolutely. I did not expect that result. No alc should not have won. It has won. Whether or not I'd go and have no alcohol wine, I still don't think so. I think to your point earlier, like why have that? Why not just have a mocktail or have some juice or have a Coke?
Yeah.
Right? Why do you need to have something that resembles a wine but actually isn't a wine? Maybe it's for the experience. Maybe it's because you're transitioning off. This isn't a judgment thing. I'm just trying to understand it.
Yeah, no one likes try-hards, right?
No one likes try-hards. So what does that mean? What does that mean?
People like trying to be something, right?
Right.
They're not,
You're pretending to have wine, but you're not really.
Yeah.
So I'm curious with the community below. Let us know what is it that you like about low or no alcohol wines, so that we can share that with the community. But if you're in the market for it, give it a try. We got the Tempus Two Prosecco was a winner. We got the Trent Pinot Noir. Still outdid the Artemis wine, but no alcohol wines. It's okay. It's a good thing. And so that's us at the wind up. Check out your local bottle shop to give this a try. As we like to say here, drink more, try more, learn more.